Hi, and welcome to the End Times Guy podcast. My name is Lee. Thrilled to have you along this morning. We are living in the end times. And you know what? The church as a whole has lost touch with some very, very important things. First of all, the power of God. The power of God is absolutely required. It's necessary if we are to live the Christian life. And for a long time, I fell into the rut of trying to learn the secret of living the Christian life. I have all this knowledge, but what good is knowledge? How do I make it work? What is the trick? What is the secret to getting it all to actually work? And there is no secret. There is no last bit of knowledge you need to acquire before the gears start to turn and the pistons start to fire and the whole thing comes alive. It's not about learning. As Paul said, they're always learning, but never coming to a knowledge of the truth. And the truth is, the power of God is what makes everything work. We can't cause things to work. It is not by the will of man, nor by the will of the flesh. It is the power of God. We really have lost sight of that, the ability to sit and wait on the Lord and see what the Lord will do, see what the Lord will give to us, see what the Lord will answer. The root of that problem is in the gospel, the fact that we declare one another to be Christian rather than waiting on God. That is our first taste of the power of God. And it's necessary that every Christian have this honeymoon experience described in Hebrews 6 as tasting the heavenly gift. It's not preached anymore to wait on God, to wait for this heavenly gift. We rather popishly declare one another to be Christian as if we ourselves have the power to make that so. And that's where we lost sight of what the power of God is. And we've learned to make Christianity work around our own traditions, our own ideas, our own learning, apart from the power of God. A visiting Christian leader from South Korea came to America, and after being toured around all the different places, his response was, "It is amazing all that you have done without God." And that was a gentle and meek and humble chastisement. You have done all these things without the power of God. And it really should have been a deep time of soul searching, but it was laughed off. And along with that delegation were some South Korean young people who came and mingled with the young people of the Western world and withdrew from them because they didn't want to be influenced by these young people. And that again should have been a strong warning sign. What is it about us that they withdraw from? They have a holiness from God, and they don't wish it polluted by the things of the world. And so many of the things of the world had crept into Western Christianity that it caused our brothers and sisters in Christ to withdraw. And that should be, we have no cause to be insulted by that. That's the fleshly response. Rather, we should be ashamed and we should be repenting. Where is our holiness? Why are we not like them? Why are we not withdrawing from the youth of our society to protect the righteousness of God within us? And this ties back into the fact that we have not waited to taste the heavenly gift. We have declared one another to be saved and gone on and formed our own Christianity, our own gospel. And it's led us deeper and deeper into torment and suffering. You see, we're trying to live a set of ideals that the flesh can't live. when we walk in the Spirit, righteousness is given to us and we don't have to struggle with sin. Rather, in Western Christianity, we are ever strapped with guilt, ever aware of our heavy burden of sin, filled with misery, and it either leads to a hardening of the heart where you learn to accommodate sin and justify it in some way, or you simply give up. It can't be done. I'll just walk away. And unfortunately, I've seen many, many young people walking away from the faith that they have no strength to live, and the flesh can't live it. The flesh is powerless against it. So it is natural for us to seek out a place of refuge, a fallout shelter. We live in a world where we are running into conflict constantly, where we are oppressed, mocked, hated, abused, ridiculed, injured in many different ways every day. And it is only natural to need a fallout shelter, a place of refuge where we can find healing and comfort to renew our strength. That's just natural. Your soul daily is looking for that fallout shelter where it can go and recover. Now, if we are led by the flesh, we will find that shelter in some carnal way. For some, it is food. You know, you go to the buffet, or you order the pizza, or you take that drive-through fast food takeout, and you begin to fill your body with grease and cholesterol and salt, and you consume and get from that a feeling of satisfaction. Ah, that was so good. Now I feel better. I've found my source of comfort. I've found my place of refuge. You take that giant Lindt macadamia nut chocolate bar, and row after row, it assuages your hurts, your misery, your pain, your sorrow, your rejection, your loneliness. And in its place, you have satisfaction and a kind of rest, a kind of peace. For others, it's alcohol or some prescription or pot or whatever it is. You take your hurts and your sorrow and your misery and your longings and your emptiness, and you drink or you smoke or whatever it is, and that numbing comes over your body. You feel that peace washing over you, and you found your place of refuge. You found the place you can turn. I abused alcohol as a Christian for a number of years, to the point where I was a daily drinker and not in moderation by any means. And that was my refuge, my place. It was guaranteed if I went to the liquor store and bought a case of beer, that by the time I got to the sixth or seventh beer, I would be assuaged, I would be numbed, I would be happy. That was my refuge. For others, they look for it in another. They take their emptiness and loneliness and sorrow and rejection, and they look for a person who will give them all that they're looking for. Love me, approve of me, accept me. And for a time, new love always does that. The chemistry of new love, the hormones and endorphins that are released in new love, that works. But then after a couple of years, those hormones die away, and you're left with someone who isn't your refuge anymore. You see, God designed a loving relationship as a place where we would learn what real love is. That after 2 years, we were committed to that person, we loved that person, and we were learning to care for that person for even when they gave us nothing. That's what love is. I'm going to give to you, not because I get something out of it. Unselfishness. And that's God's way of teaching us what true love is. Forget the feelings. Give even when there's no need, no reason, no cause. I'm not getting a single thing in return, but I'm doing it anyways because that's what true love is. And God gave us relationships for that purpose. But instead, after 2 years, those endorphins and good feelings, that refuge breaks down and they turn away from each other. And that's why relationships are becoming a revolving door. They're not learning anymore what true love is. Rather, they're looking for their refuge in another person and finding a temporary refuge for a time, but then it fails them, and they blame and hate that person and walk away from them and look for a new refuge. And it's just an endless cycle. Now, Jesus was not immune to this chafing influence of the world. He too was worn out, worn down. When he was walking through the marketplace, a woman brushed him. He was surrounded by people. People were brushing him all the time. But one woman in particular brushed up against him, and he turns and he says, "Who touched me?" And the apostles were like, Lord, I don't mean to break it to you in this way, but people are touching y'all all over the place. And he said, power went out of me. You see, Jesus was like us. He was drained by the world, by the things he did, the experiences he had. It took it out of him, and he was emptied. Jesus needed a place of refuge every bit as much as us. A fallout shelter that he could retreat to, get the door closed, carry all of his emptiness and hurt and sorrow and misery and rejection and pain. But he didn't use food. He didn't use alcohol. He didn't look for it in his disciples. He went alone. He went and found it alone in the mountains while everyone else ran to sleep as a place of refuge where they could just recharge their batteries. He would walk alone into the mountains to be alone with God. That was his refuge. God was his fallout shelter. And in the place of prayer, God met with him, and the power of God refilled him and restored him and put him back on his feet and filled his batteries so that he could go out and do it all over again. The true place of refuge is in God, not in building a ministry, not in food, not in alcohol, not in loving relationships, not in sex. The things of the flesh offer temporary refuge, but in time they fail. They only work for a while. If you want a permanent solution, it's found in God. We have to be able to sit and wait in the refuge, the fallout shelter. Make yourself a fallout shelter, a place where you can lock the hatch and be alone with God and bring your hurt, bring your sorrow, bring your emptiness, bring your pain, bring it all to God. And then he is the one who can fill you and restore you and put you on your feet so that you can go out and bless the world all over again. Thanks for listening. God bless you. I hope your day is as peaceful and joyful as mine.